The moment she left didn't arrive with thunder or rage. It unfolded with a hush so heavy it seemed to press the very walls inward. No slammed doors, no final accusations hurled like daggers, just silence, dense, suffocating, final. She stood in the entryway holding her suitcase like it weighed more than just clothes, her eyes distant and unfocused, as though her mind had already slipped beyond these walls. I didn't beg her to stay. I didn't fall apart in some desperate display, not because I wasn't breaking inside, but because by then I'd already given everything I had in quiet, unspoken ways. In the final weeks, I showed up for her in the small rituals she never acknowledged. I made her coffee just the way she liked it, down to the way the spoon rested on the saucer. I stayed up on nights when she came home late, listening for the familiar click of her key in the lock, then pretending to be asleep when she slipped past me. I asked again and again, "Are you okay?" and always received the same dismissive reply, "I'm fine." But I knew she wasn't. She'd been slipping away from me in fragments long before her feet crossed the threshold that day. What happened that morning was merely the final exhale of a love that had quietly suffocated. I watched her go with a single, solemn nod, like a soldier surrendering not out of weakness, but out of the quiet knowledge that there was nothing left to fight for. She turned and walked away without looking back, and I didn't follow. I wandered into the kitchen, found the seat she always used, and sat across from its emptiness, staring as if waiting for her shape to materialize again. But it never did. The weeks blurred together after that, slow, colorless days folding into each other. People commended me on my strength, told me how composed I seemed, how admirable it was that I was handling it all so well. They didn't see the nights. They didn't hear the screaming silence that filled the apartment after sundown. They didn't watch me instinctively set the table for two, only to return one plate to the cabinet. They didn't see me scrolling through our old photos, my eyes burning, refusing to delete a single memory. They didn't feel that gnawing ache that clung to everything, the scent of her shampoo still trapped in the hallway air, her jacket hanging untouched in the closet, the echo of her laughter caught in the quietest corners. I tried to move forward. I threw myself into workouts, worked late without complaint, agreed to blind dates I had no interest in. But every person who sat across from me felt like a stranger. None of them carried her softness, her storm, her contradictions. And if I was honest, I wasn't sure whether I longed for her to return or simply wished for the pain to loosen its grip. As the months crept by, I stopped reaching for my phone each morning. I stopped waiting for a message or an apology that was never going to come. I let the grief wash over me, let it stretch and ache and hollow me out. And in that slow, painful unraveling, I began to heal. I rearranged the apartment. I replaced the bedding. I gave away the coat that still held the memory of her warmth. Each step was brutal, but each one was a breath deeper into a new life I hadn't asked for, but was now building with bare, aching hands. When the 1-year mark came around, October 14th, I noted it in my journal, a full turn of the earth without her. I was in sweatpants, stirring something simple for dinner while soft music drifted from the speakers. For the first time, her absence didn't feel like a gaping wound. I wasn't haunted anymore. I wasn't waiting. Then there was a knock, soft, hesitant, the kind of knock that doesn't belong at 9 p.m. unless something's wrong. I froze, then approached the door and opened it, and time slowed. It was her. Her hair was longer now, her eyes swollen as though she hadn't slept properly in weeks. She wore a thin coat not fit for the October chill. For a second, I thought it had to be a ghost or a trick of memory. But then her voice came, soft and tremulous. I had nowhere else to go. I stepped aside, not because I'd made a choice, but because my body moved before my heart could catch up. She sat at the kitchen table, our old refuge of conversation and laughter, now a space of ghosts. Her hands trembled as she clutched a folded piece of paper in her lap. "I wrote this months ago," she said without meeting my eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to send it. She handed me the letter. Its edges were worn, creased, faintly, scented with the perfume I hadn't smelled in nearly a year. I unfolded it with care and read words soaked in regret and longing. She'd left chasing something she couldn't name, only to find the man she'd chosen wasn't what she hoped. The silence she tried to escape only grew louder, and everywhere she turned, She heard my voice echoing in the hollow places. She confessed to sleeping in one of my old shirts because it was the only thing that brought her peace. I messed up, she whispered at last, her gaze finally rising to meet mine. I thought I needed more, but what I needed was you, a year ago. I would have collapsed into that confession. I would have taken her into my arms without hesitation. My heart whispered, pull her close, let her stay. But I didn't move, because I was no longer the man she walked out on. I had rebuilt myself from the ashes of what she left behind. I had learned to find quiet joy in solitude, to embrace the silence instead of fearing it. I forgive you, I said softly, her eyes closed, a single tear escaping, carving a path down her cheek. But I'm not who I used to be, I added. Gently. She nodded, understanding deeper than words. I know, and I'm not the same either. We sat in that shared silence, not the kind that bruised, but one born of recognition, of two souls that once intertwined, but had grown in opposite directions. I didn't come to ask for anything, she said, voice trembling. I just needed you to know I regret everything. I placed the letter on the table and gave a slow nod. I understand. She stood, each step toward the door deliberate, the air thick with unspoken finality. At the threshold, she turned back one last time. I'll always love you, she said, her voice cracking. I offered a quiet smile. And I'll always wish you well. Then she walked out. No storm, no collapse. Just one last glance over her shoulder before disappearing into the night. Not every love story gets a second chapter. Not every ending holds a promise of return. Sometimes love leaves, and when it does come back, you've already learned to bloom in its absence. I didn't let her in again, not because the love was gone, but because I'd finally learned to love myself.